Hello, and welcome back to Season 2 of Atlanta Opera's BlinkOpera podcast. I'm baritone Curt Olds, and I'm thrilled to return to Atlanta Opera as the famed MC in Cabaret. I'm excited to be your host for this week's episode of Kander Ebb's Tony Award-winning musical. I have made a career equally based in opera and musical theater, so when opera companies produce operetta and Broadway caliber productions, my worlds collide in the best of ways. Now, Cabaret isn't just your standard, everyday sort of musical. The musical is laced with politics, social commentary, brutal history, and today it seems to act as a cautionary tale in this complicated political world in which we find ourselves. Kander and Ebb take us on a journey to the Kit Kat Klub, where we experience so much more than a simple night at the cabaret. Cabaret deals with the rise of autocratic government, fascism, abortion, gender and sexual identity, race, anti-Semitism, war, and propaganda. It was a heavy order for the Broadway stage of 1966, just 20 years after the end of the World War it depicts. It's shocking how many of these topics are still being debated and discussed today. And the show demonstrates how Cabaret remains an important and timely musical. Cabaret has enjoyed much success since its first premiere. Directed by one of the most famed producers in Broadway history, Harold Prince, its original production played an unprecedented 1,200 performances and immediately transferred to the London stage, starring a newcomer named Judi Dench as Sally Bowles. In 1972, it was filmed, and it won Oscars for both Liza Minnelli and Joel Grey, one of its original Broadway stars, and the film remains a cultural touchstone. The musical was revived on Broadway in 1987, which included opera's Regina Resnick as Fräulein Schneider, and again in 1998, starring Natasha Richardson and Alan Cumming, in a production that was so popular it played over 2,300 performances, turning Cumming into an international star. And the production came back to Broadway in 2013 for another 36 weeks, starring Cumming and film star Michelle Williams. A few years ago, I had the good fortune to be cast by Hal Prince in his remounted production of the musical Candide for New York City Opera in 2017. Now, this opportunity with Mr. Prince also led to my casting in Phantom of the Opera, another one of his mega successes, and I'm still doing that production today. At one point during rehearsals for Candide, Hal asked if I ever had the opportunity to play the MC in Cabaret, and I said that I had not, and I told him that it was a dream role. He replied, You must find a production and do it immediately. Just shortly after he passed away, Tomer asked me to join Atlanta Opera's production, and I jumped at the opportunity.
Welcome, bienvenue, welcome.
The musical Cabaret holds a very important position in the history of American theater. The conceptual structure of the show and the style in which it is presented was extremely unique at the time and opened the doors of approach and creativity for composers and writers moving forward. Although Broadway had presented shows which dealt with the themes of World War II prior, like South Pacific and The Sound of Music, it was Cabaret that first incorporated darker, more complex philosophical ideas of the war, such as anti-Semitism, Nazism, and unconventional sexuality. The musical debuted on Broadway in 1966, and it is based on a 1951 play called I Am a Camera by John Van Druten, which was adapted from a semi-autobiographical novel called Goodbye to Berlin, written by Christopher Isherwood. Christopher's novel recounts the period of time he spent in 1930s Berlin prior to Nazi occupation. The show uniquely integrates plot-driving dialogue scenes with musical numbers that stop the action to comment on the larger themes being presented, with the action facilitated by the master of ceremonies, who helps guide the audience through the show and connects the scenes and production numbers into a cohesive presentation. At the beginning of the show, the audience is transported into the decadent world of pre-World War II Berlin as the master of ceremonies, simply called the MC, welcomes everyone to his cabaret called the Kit Kat Klub. He sings the famous Broadway standard Willkommen to begin the musical.
Ich bin euer Konferenzjahr, je suis votre compère. I am your host. Sage willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. Im Cabaret, au Cabaret, au Cabaret. Leave your troubles outside.
And as the story unfolds, we meet an American writer named Cliff Bradshaw as he arrives in Germany, seeking new experiences to enhance his writing. As he enters Germany by train, he is stopped at customs and inadvertently meets a man named Ernst Ludwig. Some of Ernst's luggage gets switched around and passes customs without being checked. Cliff witnesses this happen, and Ernst distracts his attention by recommending some affordable housing in Berlin at a boarding house of Fräulein Schneider, and offers Cliff employment as an English translator and tutor. Cliff locates Fräulein Schneider's boarding house and secures a room. In her song, So What?, she negotiates the price and terms of the room. With a job and housing, he can now slip into the decadence of Germany's Weimar Republic, and he finds himself at the famed Kit Kat Klub. It is here he meets the famed emcee and the employees and clientele of the club. During the club's show, he witnesses Sally Bowles, a singer at the club, as she performs songs like Don't Tell Mama and Mein Hair during the New Year's Eve celebration. Cliff is intoxicated with Sally, and when they meet, she senses an opportunity in Cliff. She has recently lost employment, and she's been kicked out of her apartment by her old boyfriend, so she convinces Cliff to let her move into his room at Fräulein Schneider's. Cliff questions if this is an appropriate thing to do, and Sally tells him it's nobody's business but theirs, as they are free to live an unconventional lifestyle with freedom to come and go, which excites both of them. They sing a duet called Perfectly Marvelous, which transitions into the emcee vaudevillian number, Two Ladies.
I met this truly remarkable girl in this really incredible town, and she skillfully managed to talk her way into my room.
Oh, dear.
I've got a terrible feeling I've said a dumb thing. Besides, I've only got one narrow bed.
We'll think of something.
So you see, everyone in Berlin has a perfectly marvelous roommate. Some people have two people.
At this point in the musical, we meet the other tenants of Fräulein Schneider's boarding house. She rents a room to a lovely, kind Jewish fruit vendor named Herr Schultz, who brings her exotic fruits, including a pineapple, which at the time was an extremely rare treat. The two of them began a flirtatious relationship, eventually leading to Herr Schultz asking her to marry him. Another tenant is a woman of questionable rapport named Fräulein Kost. She regularly gets into arguments with Fräulein Schneider as she brings sailors and other men home to spend the night. As the months go by, Cliff and Sally's relationship intensifies, and they enjoy their decadent lifestyles with few rules and regulations. Sally informs Cliff that she has become pregnant, and although he is not sure if he is the father, he convinces her to keep the baby, and he makes arrangements with Ernst Ludwig to take on additional work transporting packages across the German border, unbeknownst that he is actually assisting the Nazis. As Act 1 comes to a close, Fräulein Schneider and Herr Schultz invite the tenants of the boarding house and some personal friends to attend an engagement party. Ernst Ludwig joins, now wearing a Nazi armband, and learns that Herr Schultz is Jewish. Ernst demands that Fräulein Schneider reconsider this marriage, informing her that she is making a grave mistake. Fräulein Kost takes advantage of this uncomfortable moment to demonstrate her support for the new Nazi agenda, and engages Ernst to join her in singing the propagandist anthem, Tomorrow Belongs to Me. Composer John Kander is often asked if his song is an actual Nazi anthem. It is that effective in the musical. In Act 2, Fräulein Schneider expresses to Herr Schultz that she has become a very uneasy person with the prospect of marrying him. She assures him how much she loves him and cares for him, but she fears how this marriage will affect her life if and when the Nazis come to power, stating that she is old and unable to surmount change. Even after a brick is thrown through the front window, separating the two of them, Herr Schultz insists that things are not so serious and that everything will be okay. In the end, Fräulein Schneider breaks off the engagement. She returns the engagement present that Sally and Cliff gave to her. The MC performs a song with a gorilla, commenting on unconventional love and acceptance. As the political situation intensifies in Berlin, Cliff makes the decision to leave Germany and begs Sally to join him abroad where they can give their child a better life to live. But Sally refuses. She states that what is happening politically and culturally in Germany doesn't affect them, and she will not give up on the life she loves in Berlin, unaware of the drastic changes happening around her. At the Kit Kat Klub that night, as the MC sings a defiant and moving version of the song I Don't Care Much, Ernst tries to get Cliff to deliver another package.
Lips grow cold, with direct to meet. So if you kiss me, if we touch, warnings clear. I don't care very much.
Cliff refuses to do any more work for Ernst, realizing that he has been assisting the Nazis, and a fight ensues. Cliff now knows how dangerous it is in Germany and must leave immediately, and he begs Sally to join him. Sally takes the stage once again, performing the musical's titular song in an apparent state of an emotional distress.
What good is sitting alone in your room? Come here, the music play. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret. Put down the knitting, the book and the broom. Time for a holiday. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret.
After this tour de force number, she informs Cliff that she has had an abortion and there is no longer anything to hold them together. She tells him to leave, but stops him one final time to request that he dedicate his novel to her. The MC disappears from the confines of the musical itself into the reality of the final rise of the totalitarian power of the Nazi regime. Cliff boards his train out of Germany and begins his novel. The MC closes out the musical alone on stage, his future unsure as he is taken away by the Nazis.
Life is a cabaret, old chum. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Life is a cabaret.
Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of the Atlanta Opera podcast, BlinkOpera. If you enjoyed learning more about Cabaret, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's a great way for more people like you to find out about our content. And don't forget to follow the Atlanta Opera podcast for more great episodes.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I'm baritone Curt Olds. Thank you for tuning in.
A bientôt.